They look innocent enough, ordinary orange football pants, but fill them with Clemson Tiger football players, and, well, many Tiger fans would swear they make magic. The kind of magic that can turn a great team into a national championship team, or a winning season into a dream come true. It all began on November 22nd of 1980 in Death Valley. A 14th-ranked South Carolina team with a Gator Bowl bid in hand came to Clemson expecting an easy victory. But they didn't expect the orange fans. Not only did the Tigers refuse to roll over and play dead, they dominated the game from start to finish. Fueled by Willie Underwood's 2 interceptions, including this 37-yard touchdown, Clemson walked away with a convincing 27-6 victory. The unexpected win, plus the return of 17 starters, gave fans reason for optimism regarding 1981. The 81 opener against Wofford was the earliest in Clemson history. Supposedly playing out of their league, the Terriers started the game in complete control with a new misdirect offense called the wing bone. The Tiger defense, however, soon adjusted, and William Perry began to jam the wing bone back down their throats. 300-pound freshman entered his first college game with 7 tackles. Other bright spots in this uneven game included a 52-yard field goal by Donald Igwe-Buike, who also played for Clemson's top 10 soccer team. It was his first intercollegiate field goal attempt and the longest in the ACC this season. Junior quarterback Homer Jordan also got off to a good start with 4 touchdowns on the day, a first for a Tiger quarterback in 7 years. This 80-yard bomb to All-American Perry Tuttle was Clemson's longest play of the season. It was the All-American's 100th career reception. Later in the second quarter, Jordan worked the option off left end and powered his way into the end zone for a 17-3 Clemson lead. In the second half, he hit Frank Magwood from 11 yards out. All in all, a 45-10 win is a great way to begin a season. But the Tigers were still relatively untested. Tulane provided the first test on the road in the Superdome, the first time a Clemson football team had ever played indoors. And despite the distractions, the Tigers showed remarkable poise and tenacity, coming back from an 35-0 deficit. The defense showed it was playing for keeps. Tulane's Marvin Lewis discovered that the hard way, compliments of All-ACC tackle Dan Benish. And later, compliments of one of the Bruise brothers, William Devane. That's all the Clemson offense needed. 5 plays later, Cliff Austin crashed over from 4 yards out for what proved to be the only touchdown of the game. In the third quarter, All-American Terry Kennard came up with perhaps the pivotal play of the game when he picked off a Wade Elmore pass at the 1-yard line and ran it back 16 yards to get the Tigers out of deep trouble. When it was all over, each starting defensive back had intercepted a pass, a first in Clemson history. With 4 minutes left in the game, Tulane took over at its own 16, needing only a touchdown on a 2-point play to tie. But instead of yielding, the Tiger defense reeled off 3 straight sacks to squelch any dreams of a miracle tidal wave by the Green Wave. First, Jeff Davis, who had a season-high 20 tackles in the game. Then Joe Glenn. And finally, Edgar Pickett, bringing about a 4th and 40 for Tulane. Tulane never saw the ball again. Next, it was Georgia. A game so filled with emotion, both fans and players were practically dripping adrenaline out of their pores. Most fans felt the 1980 loss at Georgia dispirited the Clemson team, but Clemson was ready for World War III and for the invasion of General Walker. Clemson came into the game multi-point underdogs. Defending national champion Georgia had a number 4 ranking, the longest win string in the nation. And last but not least, Herschel Walker. But Clemson had 64,000 fans, a thirst for revenge, and orange pants. Welcome to Death Valley, Mr. Walker. Welcome to Death Valley, Mr. Ballou. When the dust had settled, the highly touted Walker had been held to a scant 111 yards, his regular season low, and the Tiger defense had forced 9 turnovers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. As it had in the Superdome, the Clemson offense did what needed to be done. Here, Homer Jordan pranced for 7 yards, and on the next play, hit the ubiquitous Perry Tuttle for the only touchdown of the day. Donald Igwe-Buike added 2 field goals, giving Clemson a resounding 13-3 victory. That win vaulted Clemson into the top 20, and Danny Ford was named National Coach of the Week. More importantly, the win gave Tiger players a large and much-needed dose of self-confidence. For the first time ever, Herschel's silver britches needed mending. In the second half of the Kentucky game, the Tigers suddenly proved they had an offense to match their defense, which now led the nation in 3 categories. It began with a beautifully executed 13-play, 83-yard drive. Chuck McSwain, who was injured in fall workouts and had only 78 yards rushing in the first 3 games, was the key. At the end of the drive, Kevin Mack gave McSwain a break and made like a Skylab blastoff to score from 11 yards out. After a patented Andy Hedden fumble recovery, Homer Jordan faked into the line and scored once again on a play that would have counted in touch football. It gave the Tigers a 14-3 lead. Clemson then sealed win number 4 with another long-scoring drive in the 4th quarter, led by none other than Chuck McSwain, who ended the day with 107 hard-earned yards. The revitalized Tiger offense racked up 21 points and 213 yards in the second half alone. Lest you think the defense was sleeping, allow freshman William Perry to set the record straight. The Kentucky win vaulted Clemson into the top 10 for the first time since 1978 and set the stage for homecoming 81 and the Tigers' first ACC game. The opponent, Virginia, the team Coach Frank Howard refers to as white meat on Clemson's schedule, because in 20 straight years, Virginia has never won a game over the Tigers. But then again, it hadn't rained on Tigerama in 25 years. As they did all year, however, the Clemson Tigers refused to look ahead or back and concentrated on the task at hand. So well, in fact, that for the first time all season, both the offense and the defense put it all together for a full 60 minutes. Here, Homer Jordan, who entered the game as Clemson's leading rusher and passer, connected for 41 yards with Frank Magwood, a junior who's destined to lead the receiving corps in 1982. Late in the second quarter, Perry Tuttle showed his versatility with this 22-yard run. And on the next play, Cliff Austin ran off a block from Brad Fisher and Tony Berryhill, and it was a 10-0 Clemson lead. The second half began with a picture-perfect drive initiated by Jeff McCall. Jordan then hit Magwood for 16 yards and a first down. Austin danced around right end for 22 more. And McCall finished what he'd begun as he smoked over right tackle Lee Nanny to give Clemson a 17-0 lead. The Wahoos tried to catch up, but they would get into Clemson territory only once in the second half. The game ended, Tigers 27, Virginia nothing. Clemson had won its first 5 games, something they had not done since 1958. That was also the last season Clemson had gone to a major bowl, a note that was becoming more and more appropriate. But next, the Revenge Bowl, homecoming at Duke. Revenge or no revenge, the Clemson offense came out smoking. Almost immediately, this Jordan to Magwood pass moved the Tigers to the Duke 8. Brendan Kreight, a wingback in this rare alignment, then fooled the entire Duke defense and scored easily. Clemson had a 7-0 lead before the Iron Dukes had left their pregame parties. While the Tigers were moving the ball smoothly on offense, All-American Terry Kennard was a virtual one-man defense on the other side of the line of scrimmage with 2 interceptions. His second theft prevented a Duke TD, giving the Clemson defense a modern record 18 straight quarters without yielding a touchdown. Cliff Austin also had a half to write home about as he gained 155 yards by intermission. 77 of those came on this beautiful run, longest in the ACC in 1981. Clemson gave up a TD pass in the third period, but Jordan answered right back. First, he hit Jeff Stockstill with a 20-yarder. Then rolled out and hit double-covered Perry Tuttle for 29 yards and a Clemson touchdown. Tuttle went over 2,000 career yards with the reception, and Homer ended the day with 235 yards in total offense. Overall, it was quite a day for the Clemson Tigers as they wielded an offense with a sword in one hand and a sledgehammer in the other. Clemson gained 563 yards, 240 passing, and 323 rushing, thanks to great blocking by Brian Clark, Tony Berryhill, Bob Mayberry, James Farr, and Brad Fisher. Led by Anthony Rose, Danny Triplett, and many others, the defense also grabbed some headlines. 8 times, Duke ran a play inside the Clemson 2-yard line and failed to score. The Clemson defense hadn't yielded a rushing touchdown yet, and it wasn't about to start now. The Tigers entered the NC State game ranked 4th in the nation in the AP poll, the highest ranking ever for a Clemson team. The Tiger defense liked life at the top and played aggressively. All-American Jeff Bryant, one of the biggest and meanest Tigers, had a career-high 12 tackles for the day. Here, he stopped Joe McIntosh, the ACC's leading ground gainer, who ended the day with a season low of just 39 yards. All-American Jeff Davis chipped in with 19 tackles and was named ACC Defensive Back of the Week. The offense kept its cool, too. Late in the second quarter, Little Homer engineered a 65-yard odyssey. Culminating in this Cliff Austin touchdown as he went over Fisher and Berryhill with only 13 seconds left in the half. It gave Clemson a 10-7 lead. The Tigers clinched their 7th straight win with a 52-yard drive in the fourth quarter. Jordan, who entered the game as the 6th-ranked passer in the nation, kept for 6 yards and a first down. Then ran for 13 more. Two plays later, the offensive line fired ahead with the power of a freight train, and Jeff McCall conducted a 15-yard run to clinch a 17-7 Tiger victory. Strange things take place on Halloween, and for Wake Forest coach Al Groh, his first trip to Clemson was truly a nightmare. Head Goblins Homer Jordan and Perry Tuttle worked magic all day against the bewitched Deacon defense. And most of the explosiveness was generated by Perry Tuttle. The All-American broke Jerry Butler's all-time career reception yardage record this day with this 75-yard bomb. Tuttle had 161 yards on 7 catches for the day. But he was just a component in the Orange Machine that broke 21 school and conference records in an incredible 82-24 victory. Clemson offense was hardly an unimaginative unit this day as it gained a record 756 yards of total offense, converted 12 of 12 third-down conversions, and broke the ACC scoring record in registering the most points in the nation this season. Even the Tiger mascot set a push-up record. No one ever would accuse the Tigers of looking past Wake Forest to the upcoming North Carolina game, although looking ahead would have been a very easy thing to do. Clemson was ranked 2nd and 3rd in the national polls. North Carolina ranked 8th. Never before had 2 top 10 conference teams met on the gridiron. It was the most publicized event in the South since the premiere of Gone with the Wind. Early on, UNC drove to the Clemson 7, but Dan Benish and Andy Hedden stopped quarterback Scott Stankiewicz for a 7-yard loss, forcing the Tar Heels to settle for a field goal. Clemson retaliated in the second quarter as fullback Jeff McCall, the game's MVP, capped an 81-yard scoring drive with this powerful 7-yard run. In the third period, after the snap from Scott Williams, and with Anthony Paredes' hold, Donald Igwebuike added this 39-yard field goal, giving Clemson a 10-5 lead. In the third quarter, North Carolina drove to the Clemson 4, where it was first and goal. Jeff Davis and Terry Kennard then threw Kelvin Bryant for a 5-yard loss. And 3 plays later, the Tar Heels had to settle for a 26-yard field goal. After neither team was able to move the ball, freshman Dale Hatcher, the ACC's leading punter in 1981, put the ball out of bounds at the UNC 2-yard line. With a minute to go, however, the feisty Tar Heels mounted yet another scoring threat. But an alert Jeff Bryant pounced on a fumbled lateral, and the Tigers had another win. Pressure was becoming a way of life for this 9-0 team. Next, it was the ACC championship against Maryland, a team Clemson seniors had beaten for the ACC title as freshmen in 1978. The Tigers took the field dressed in orange from head to toe, and that, as they say, was that. Homer Jordan and his gifted receivers proceeded to roll over Maryland, treating Clemson fans to one of the most impressive aerial displays ever seen in Death Valley. He hit Perry Tuttle for an amazing 10 receptions, 2 of which were for touchdowns. This catch was the 140th of Tuttle's career, breaking Jerry Butler's career record. To the delight of all Clemson fans, Jerry Gilliard, after 4 years in a Tiger uniform, finally caught his first touchdown pass. All told, Homer completed 20 passes, amassed 312 yards in total offense, third highest in Clemson history, and led the Tigers to a 21-7 win and an ACC title. Now, all that stood between them and an unbelievable perfect regular season was the South Carolina Gamecocks. The same Gamecocks whose 1980 season the Clemson Tigers had so neatly ruined. South Carolina quickly showed that they meant business with a 51-yard scoring drive on their first possession. Partisan Gamecock fans went into a sustained frenzy right up to the moment Rod McSwain blocked his Carolina punt and Johnny Rembert fell on it in the end zone. Not much later, the dazed hometown fans watched Hollis Hall grab his 5th interception of the year. Setting up a Homer Jordan touchdown. For the rest of the game, Clemson sponsored the Chuck McSwain Show. The hard-running tailback ground out 52 yards in the Tigers' final touchdown drive. And would not be denied. He ended up with 151 yards on 25 carries and player of the game honors. With a 29-15 lead, all that remained was the mop-up job by the Clemson defense. And senior Bill Smith, the old man of the defense and a member of 4 Tiger Bowl teams, fittingly registered the final sack of the year. Clemson's 43rd, by far a team record. So the regular season was history. The 1981 Tigers were a perfect 11-0, something no other major college team in the country could match. A week later, Penn State defeated Pittsburgh, and Clemson became the #1 team in the nation for the first time ever. One game away from the national championship. Nebraska was the only obstacle left. But what a team. They had won 8 in a row and had steamrolled over Oklahoma in their last outing. #1 ranking notwithstanding, Clemson entered the Orange Bowl a 4-point underdog. The odds makers obviously hadn't considered the loyalty of Clemson fans, who managed to parlay a ticket allotment of $12,500 into $40,000 by game time. And the odds makers obviously hadn't considered intangible assets generated by the mystical orange pants. 2 serious miscalculations in this, the Orange Bowl. The Clemson defense quickly gave their opinion of the point spread when the precocious William Devane humiliated Outland Trophy winner Dave Remington, forced a bad pitch, then recovered it himself on the Nebraska 28-yard line. Donald Igwe-Buike coolly booted this lofty 41-yard field goal that drew gasps from the stadium crowd of over 70,000. Nebraska retaliated on the next series and scored on a halfback pass from Mike Rozier to Anthony Steeles, giving the Cornhuskers a 7-3 lead. The Tigers got serious later in the period. Defensive end Joe Glenn tore Phil Bates loose from the ball, and Jeff Davis picked it up. Clemson took over on the Cornhusker 27. Cliff Austin, who had been trapped in an elevator for 2 hours earlier in the day, swept around the right side behind blocks from Brendan Cricht and Bubba Diggs for a touchdown and a 12-7 Clemson lead. In the third quarter, Clemson took command of the game. For the third time, Jordan hit Tuttle on first down. Three plays later, on 3rd and 5, the duo connected again. From the Nebraska 25, Chuck McSwain crashed up the middle for 9 yards and another first down, forcing the shaky Nebraska defense to call a timeout. Having regrouped, they promptly gave up 12 more yards to Jeff McCall. Homer Jordan and Perry Tuttle were not thinking field goal. Tuttle beat Alan Liddy at the left corner and, leaping in Jerry Butlerish style, acrobatically gave Clemson a 19-7 lead. It was Tuttle's 8th touchdown reception of the year, a new school record. After the Clemson defense forced another Cornhusker punt, Billy Davis used blocks from Rod McSwain and Jim Scott and sprinted 48 yards, the longest punt return of his career. The dash set up Donald Igwe-Buike's 3rd field goal of the game. The fourth quarter was a replay of the North Carolina game, as a tenacious Tiger defense held off a determined Nebraska comeback effort. Although Roger Craig managed to close the gap to 22-15 on this 26-yard run, the nation's second-ranked scoring defense held the Cornhuskers to a mere 6 yards in the last 9 minutes of play. Nebraska attempted one last-ditch forward pass with 6 seconds remaining on the clock. But by the time the ball harmlessly bounced off Andy Hedden's outstretched arms, time was up, and the 1981 Clemson Tigers were undisputed national champions. 137 Division I teams began without a loss in 1981, and only one had ended it that way, the Clemson Tigers. The green season had included 3 wins over top 10 opponents, National Coach of the Year honors for Danny Ford, and countless school and conference records. 8 players were chosen All-ACC, and a record 5 Tigers were chosen first or second team All-American by various services. Jeff Davis had become only the 3rd defensive player in ACC history to be named Most Valuable Player. A team unranked in the preseason polls that was not picked to win its league title had jumped all the way to the heavyweight division and knocked out a past champ for sport's highest ranking. Whether it was the pure talent and desire of the players, the innovations of the coaching staff, or the intangible assets generated by the Orange Pants, Clemson took the nation by storm. It was a special time when a great university bound together rose above unprecedented odds and realized a dream that will live forever.